So first of all, nice to meet you. I'm very happy that you find the time for us to talk today and this morning. And I hope that we will talk about a lot of important things. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Well, I would like to start from these so-called referendums that were held in our occupied territories. So would you be so kind to comment all these referendums that Russia held here in Ukraine with these armed men accommodated with portable ballot boxes, and all would see this in the numerous videos. So how does all this looks like from the view of human right observation?
So this is just another way for Russia Federation to justify the illegal annexation of territories of Ukraine in Ukrainian regions, and the forcible change of international borders clearly breaches the international law, and just the act of planning the so-called referenda by political forces who are illegally exercising control on in the occupied territories of Ukraine is a violation of the international law and the international standards and the obligation under the international humanitarian law. As stated also by the OSCE, any elections or referenda in the territory of Ukraine can only be announced and conducted by legitimate authorities in Ukraine in compliance with the national legislation and international standards. And let me also remind that 8 years ago, the Russian Federation organized the same referendum in Crimea. And we have seen how in Europe and in other Western countries, people were saying that people in Crimea chose to join Russia because they had a referendum. And so this can clearly explains how the Russian Federation is using this method just like a tool of propaganda. And this is extremely important for us. We need to understand that the international community need to understand that we do not have to spread, we do not spread the clamorous propaganda and disinformation when talking about these fake referenda. And I'm referring to media, of course, when they do not use the correct language, because they are not referenda, they are not a legal procedure, there were no observers, and there's no need to analyze the vote of this show.
Well, there are a lot of cases when Russia separate families in Ukraine, and for example, they bring children to somewhere to the Russia, and families are separated, and it breaks our heart. So, what do you think about this illegal removal of children and Ukrainian citizens in general from territory of Ukraine to Russia?
In general, international humanitarian law classify the forced deportation of people during a war as war crimes. When it comes to children, this is classified as a genocide under the Genocide Convention, which underlines the intent to destroy a national and to erase a religious or an ethnic group. The forced displacement of children in Russia or in temporarily occupied territory by the Russian Federation clearly is aimed to erase Ukrainian identity. And we can find this genocidal method also in other situations. For example, the attempt of Russification of the child population. I think, for example, of the forced adoption of Ukrainian children by Russians, the Russification of schools in occupied territories, or the replacement of Ukrainian language by Russian languages. So these are all elements that clearly means an attempt of a crime of genocide.
Are there similar features of human rights violation when comparing the Russia-Ukrainian war and, for example, the others war that Russia held in other countries? Are there something the same? Yes.
Yes, of course. For example, in Syria, when thousands of civilians have been killed by Russian forces, and we can see the same method, the same modus operandi, the use of illegal weapons, the destruction of everything, house of people, schools, hospitals, just destroying everything in order to destroy a population and to spread the terror among the population. So clearly, yes, this is something that we can see in all situations when Russia occupied or attacks a country.
We all see what was going on in Bucha, Borodyanka, Hostomel, and for example, in the recently liberated Izium. It is really terrifying things which Russian soldiers do with other people, and Ukrainians call it genocide because it's a real genocide of other people. So, do you think that these actions of Russia are really have the sign of a genocide?
So the mass killing of civilians clearly represent war crimes and crimes against humanity, and can also be classified as genocide. The crime, however, the crime of genocide requires, as I said before, the intent to destroy a group, an ethnic or religious or national group, and that's why it's so hard to, it's so difficult to prove it in court. However, in general, we can see the genocidal character in Russian crimes over the against the Ukrainian populations, the forced transfer of children to Russia or to occupied areas, the replacement of teachers, the replacement of languages, as I said before. So yes, there's this element, however, is difficult to prove, but absolutely we need to work in the sense because we need to investigate war crimes as well as crimes against humanity and also the terrible crime of genocide.
And actually, are there any violations that are difficult to prove, and how to prove such violation in general? Or maybe you have such practice, or there is such practice in the world?
When it comes to to crimes that are difficult to investigate and to prove, I can see the rapes. Rapes is the hidden crimes in conflicts and during war, and this is something. This is a crime that is used as a weapon. So it's a crimes against humanity, is a war crimes, but it's so difficult to investigate because the objective of this crime is to humiliate the victims, is to destroy a community, to break the spirit of defenders in a community, and to spread a sense of despair among people. And that's why victims very often don't feel like reporting this crime. Is very, very hard to investigate, and that's why this is the hidden crime, but it's absolutely important to remember that war also had this hidden crime.
Well, currently the mobilization is actively underway in Russia, and the media say that they want to mobilize even 1 million people, or 1,000,002 people. So this is a lot of people, and the Russian leadership, they did not provide their soldiers with everything they needed. Instead, they give them the list what they should buy for themselves. So of course, all these soldiers, they will come to Ukraine and die in our land because they are enemies. But let's look at the situation in the Russia inside with their soldiers and the Russian leadership. So does Russia violate the rights even of its own people by this mobilization and everything what is going on like here?
Yes, of course, Russia first violate the rights, the human rights of the people. And obviously, when it comes to the invasion of Ukraine, there we have a lot of war crimes. But we have to remind that a regime is first commit crimes against its people, and after outside its borders. So absolutely, yes.
Well, and maybe some couple of words about the book that you decided to present, We Will Fight to the End, on the of Behave, the Federation of Human Rights Italy. Maybe why, the first question is why you decided to present this book?
Okay, this is a book curated by Massimiliano Mellei. He's an Italian journalist with a focus. So he works with a focus on Ukraine, and this book includes a collection and a selection of speeches of President Zelensky, starting from the 23rd of April until, the 23rd of February until April. So first of all, presenting this book to an Italian audience where Kremlin's propaganda is extremely powerful is an opportunity for us to discuss about Ukrainians without the Russian filter. And also is a way to listen to the voice of Ukrainian, the voice of the victims, and because we need to focus the discussion on the fact that this is a war of aggression, and there is a responsible and there is a victim, and Ukrainian, of course, is the victim. And in this sense, I think that this book can add a value to the discussion to understand the real situation that Ukrainian are experiencing in this time.
And what motivated people to write this book the most?
So, as I said before, Massimiliano Mellei created this book, and I think the first reason is to collect the speeches of Zelensky and publish the book is to give voice to a president who and to the people of Ukrainian who really feels represented by President Zelensky, a leader who decided to remain with these people and to lead his country even when his life was at high risk. So this is a sort of support to Ukrainian people, I think.
What do you think? Who is Volodymyr Zelensky to all the readers of this book?
So we have to say the readers have very different opinion of President Zelensky, very different opinion of Ukrainian, as also of the war. The Russian war in Ukraine. And even if we have to remind that the violation of the international law, the war crimes, the crimes against aggression of a sovereign country like Ukrainian cannot be an opinion. So we need to be very straight on this point and to remind people that we have to condemn crimes. Even if we don't like Zelensky, President Zelensky.
What did you think? What did Volodymyr Zelensky policy change at all in Europe and in Italy, for example, and whole?
I think that first of all, Zelensky put at the heart of the debate, the international debate, the fact that we all should fight to keep our democracies alive. We should fight for our freedom, that as long as we make commercial agreements with regimes and for example, if we depend on them when it comes to oil and gas, we of course are exposed to blackmail, and the price we pay is our freedom and is our democracy. So I think that President Zelensky taught us this important thing, that it's important to constantly defend our democracy. And I also think that Zelensky has the merit to consolidate the cooperation of a Western country when it comes to fight for our values. For example, the adoption of sanctions. All the Western countries have been united in condemning the Russian Federation and in adopting the sanctions.
And what is your personal attitude toward Volodymyr Zelensky as a politician, a leader of Ukrainian people?
Okay, he's the president of a country and of a people who are victim of the atrocities of crimes, and he put at the center of the center of the debate the pride of a nation that wants to exist and has the right to exist, and also need to be defended by the international community. So I really think that Zelensky is the voice of all the victims, of all the Ukrainian peoples, and I think that the international community should say thanks to him for his message and for make us understand that again, we all need to be united in defending European values, in defending democracy and our freedom and our security as well against the regimes.
And maybe my last question is, what would you say to all Ukrainian people who are fighting every day for their freedom now against Russia?
That they are not alone, that the international community stand with them, that they are our heroes when they try to remain united as a people, and they stand with European values, that they really represent European values, and we are really proud of them.
Thank you so much for our time for this interview. I hope that all our readers and people who will watch us will have a lot of answers for their questions. So it was a great pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.